Hello, and welcome to the Torah Outreach Program, Erev Shabbos Erev Pesach, Burst of Inspiration. Today's Burst of Inspiration is sponsored by Michael and Janet Chessel in honor of the Torah Outreach Program. If you'd like to sponsor other Bursts of Inspiration, please contact us at TorahOutreachProgram.com or 305-773-0943. And it is also dedicated, as usual, as a schus for the hostages in Gaza. May they be returned quickly and safely. As we come on to Pesach, we are already starting to talk about the Haggadah and all the nisim, all the miracles that happened throughout the coming out of Egypt, coming out of Mitzrayim. But is that all we're supposed to talk about? What about the nisim? What about the miracles that have been happening to the Jewish people since the beginning? Pharaoh and the Egyptians were the first, but throughout the millennia, there have been nation after nation that have been out to get us, and we're still here. Rabbi Yaakov Emden said the greatest nace, greater than the splitting of the Red Sea, greater than the Makos, the plagues, is the existence of the Jewish people. By logic, we shouldn't be here, but we are here, and we are still accomplishing, and we're still growing. My favorite part of the Seder, and I share this every year, is V'hishamda. We cover up the matzos out of respect for the matzah. We raise our glass as if we're toasting, with thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're thanking God for everything He's done for us. And we say, V'hishamda lavosena b'lanu. This is what stood for us and our forefathers. Shelo echad bilvad amar aleinu chalosenu. Not one alone has stood up against us to destroy us. Ela shebechol b'dor v'dor. But in every generation, omdim aleinu chalosenu, they get up against us and they try to destroy us. V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam, and Hashem saves us from their hands. Now, whenever I read this, I always accompany this with an essay from Mark Twain. I'm doing it again, but if you'll listen closely after I'm done with the essay, you'll understand why it's more applicable to right now than before. If statistics are right, the Jews constitute but 1% of the human race. It suggests a nebulous dim puff of stardust lost in the blaze of the Milky Way. The Jew ought hardly to be heard of. But he is heard of, has always been heard of. He is as prominent in the planet as any other people. And his commercial importance is extravagantly out of proportion to the smallness of his bulk. His contributions to the world's list of great names in literature, science, art, music, finance, medicine, and abstruse learning are also way out of proportion to the weakness of his numbers. He has made a fabulous fight in the world in all ages and has done it with his hands tied behind him. He could be vain of himself and be excused for it. The Egyptian, the Babylonian, the Persian rose, filled the planet with splendor and sound, and then faded to dream stuff and passed away. The Greek, the Roman followed and made a vast noise, and they're gone now. Other peoples have sprung up and held their torch high for a time, but it burned out. And they sit in twilight now, or have vanished. The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret to his immortality? Now, I've read this before, and I answered that although Mark Twain, a.k.a. Samuel Clemens, was a very, very bright man, he doesn't know Torah. If he did, he would know the secret. The secret is the first word, V'hishamda. This is what stood for us. What stood for us is our Torah and our tradition, our learning, our mitzvos. And this goes till this very day. If anybody has been following the news and looking at history, or never mind history, looking at what is going on today, you will have heard that this past Motzei Shabbos, Saturday night, Iran sent over 300 ballistic missiles, rockets, drones. They seem to have emptied out their entire arsenal and sent it to attack Israel. Now, yes, there are all types of technological defenses that we had together with the Allies and the Jordans and America and everybody getting together to defend Israel. But most of those rockets did make it into, or a lot of those rockets did make it into Israeli space. And of all those rockets that made it in, one 14-year-old girl was harmed. Not badly, she'll make a recovery, God willing. But that was it. Their plan of massive destruction, that was it. They're the laughingstock in the Arab world, to the point that they had to make a law in Iran. Anybody caught posting jokes about the Iranian government over the bombing will be sent to jail. How did this happen? How is it possible? I read an article by a scientist who worked for the Israeli defense firms and commissions, and he's a physicist, and he said he did the calculations, and he said with all the defenses, with everything they had in their favor, if they were to make 90% success rate, 90% success rate, he would have called it an impossible miracle. I'll say that again. If they would have made a 90% success rate, mathematically on paper, it would have been an impossible miracle. They didn't have a 90% success rate. They had a 99.9% or 0.99% success rate. That's beyond logical conclusions of an out and out miracle. Missiles fell from the sky, rockets fell from the sky as big as buildings. Yes, they were hit and destroyed over Israeli airspace, but then they fell from the sky. Had they hit communities, the devastation alone from these missiles that were destroyed would have been overwhelming, God forbid. Where did they land? In the Dead Sea, in the Negev. One 14-year-old little girl. She should have her full shlema, a complete recovery, and she will. One person was injured, and that's it. I'll be perfectly honest, I mentioned this calculation. I sent the calculation to somebody I know who's an atheist, and every once in a while we have a banter, we argue back and forth. I'll send him an article and he'll send me, and he'll answer it with, this is why he disagrees, and so on. I sent this to him, this calculation by this scientist. He never sent anything back. And the reason he never sent anything back is because there is no answer unless you finally open your eyes and say, yes, there is a Ribono Shel Olam. The Ribono Shel Olam is in charge of everything, and we are the nation that was promised that in every generation, yeah, someone's going to come up against us. But in every generation, as long as we are attached to Torah, we will endure. It says in the Zohar, Yisrael ve'araisa ve'kudsha b'richu chadu. The Jewish people, the Torah, and God are all one. As long as we are attached to Torah, which is attached to God Himself, we remain immortal, just like Him. Good Shabbos, Chag Sameach, Good Yom Tov. Thank you.